Good day, Professor Jakafai and the classmates. Welcome to our group presentation for EPP 3213, International Monetary Economic. Our topic is monetary policy, the freedom under different exchange rate system, a comparison of Singapore and Malaysia from 2022 to 2026. The world economy has serious difficulties. The U.S. Central Bank sharply raised interest rates to ease inflation that hit a 40-year high. It caused large company outflows from developing countries and widespread price increase from important goods. Singapore and Malaysia are small Asian countries that rely heavily in trade. Both suffer the same outside costs, heavily per share on their cost and higher important price. Even so, their central banks use totally different policy methods. Our study aims to compare these two exchange rate systems based on multi-method study how policy change affect the economy, looked at their economic pros and cons, and offer practical advice for policymakers in Southeast Asia. As our group member will share our main method and searching result.
Thank you. To understand why these two neighboring nations respond so differently, we must look at the regime and the top dashboard at the top of our poster, which is rooted in Mendel's trilemma, or its impossible trinity. As shown in chart 4, a sovereign national cannot simultaneously maintain a fixed exchange rate, free capital mobility, and an independent monetary policy. Looking at our dashboard, Singapore positions itself as the bottom axis, operating as a hybrid open city-state. The monetary author of Singapore MAS prioritizes exchange rate stability and free capital mobility, completely giving up its nominal monetary autonomy. It has no domestic benchmark interest rates. In stark contrast, Malaysia chose the left corner of the triangle. Bank Negara Malaysia (BNM) operates a managed float regime, prioritizing retaining full monetary policy autonomy via the overnight policy rate (OPR) to protect its large domestic market, while sacrificing absolute exchange rate stability. The structural divergence perfectly sets the stage of our empirical analysis.
You let us know the examine the empirical evidence collected from the MAS and the BNM office studies between the 2022 and 2026, displayed in the low body of our poster. First, Chapter 1 illustrates the exchange rate fluctuations against the US dollar. Under its basket bag, the Singapore dollar domestic emissions resilience, trading with a very narrow band. Meanwhile, the Malaysian ringgit experiences higher market-driven volatility, undergoing a cumulative depreciation of the roughly 8% to 10% due to the weighting inverse difference. Next, Chapter 2 promotes the terminus inverse rate transmission, while the US Fed rate gets very skipped about 5%. Malaysia's OPR remained highly stable and and the autonomous around 2.75% to slater domestic borrowers. Singapore's SORA, however, directly tracked the global market force, moving sharply in the trading with US rates. Finally, the Chapter 3 shows the inflection path through the effort. Global supply shocks caused the inflation to peak in the 2024 for both nations, However, Singapore's stronger currency allowed its CPI to decline much more sharply and stabilize first than Malaysia's, as we will discuss next.
Thank you. The data we just saw highlights the profound policy change of the taken by the FIRE model. Neither framework is universally superior. Instead, each central bank chooses what was most stable for its national economic futures. Singapore consistently gives other interest rate independence because its total change to GDP loading is past the 300%. In such a hyper-open economy, traditional interest rate change are too slow by allowing to legislatively MAS successfully cut off import inflation at the border before it could seep into the domestic economy, achieving greater overall price stability. On the other hand, Malaysia boasts massive internal customer base and the company's domestic industry network. Backnagle Malaysian drive interest rate independence because speed to the OPR slowly to defund the linkage will have the devastating local small business, increase household mortgage bonus and the crush domestic consumption. Therefore, BMM will today higher its trend boldly as a necessary trend of to safeguard domestic financial stability and the economy the Gulf.
In conclusion, our comparative study confirms that the effectiveness of monetary policy depends entirely on its alignment with a country's structural fundamentals. Based on our findings, we propose three tiered policy implications at the bottom of our poster. First, for central banking authorities, we highly recommend that Bank Negara Malaysia continues to actively expand the local currency settlement mechanisms within the Asian network. Bypassing US dollar dependency in regional trade with inherently reduced exchange rate pass-through risk and expand Malaysia's actual monetary autonomy. Second, for importing and exporting firms, due to the inherent volatility of a managed float regulation, corporate financial managers must aggressively leverage macro-prudential hedging tools such as foreign exchange forward contracts and currency options to mitigate cross-border transaction risks. Lastly, for domestic consumers, households should remain rational regarding purchasing power shifts during external shocks. This concludes our presentation. The empirical evidence validates that successful monetary policy requires a consistent framework properly aligned within institutional credibility and financial openness. Thank you very much.